the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt. The hunting journey continues. Let's get into it. I'm flipping the script on this episode, and mate, I don't know what it's going to feel like for you, Lawson, but you're on the opposite end of the podcast tonight. So I've got Lawson White joining me from Bailing, Scaling, and BBQ. And if you haven't checked it out, give it a listen. It's probably where I've learned a lot about pig dogging, to be honest. And we were just having a chat off air, and we're going to get straight into it because you're training a couple of pups at the moment. What breed are they?
Short-haired border collies, mate. Yeah, so not the typical pig dog, but I do believe there is a change happening. A lot of guys are starting to move away from I call them the big mullet head dogs, and they're slowly working out that little dogs can do the job too. So, I'm moving out of I never really had big dogs, to be honest, so it was always Catahoulas, collie crosses, or my brother and father run a lot of Kelpies. So, we're trying to use the brains over the brawn. So I've bought these two especially for the YouTube channel. I'm going to do a bit of education on how to teach people how to train dogs. It's a bit cheating in a way because they're probably one of the smarter breeds to train. So to be honest, I haven't done anything with them at the moment, and they're perfect. They're crate trained, they're everything, and all I have to do is basically give them a routine, and they're perfect. So
I've had one border collie in the past, and they are such a switched-on breed.
Yeah.
And compared to my current dogs, my Shepherd's, I've got a German Shepherd, she's pretty switched on. The other one's a bit of a Bitzer that was a rescue, and she's probably as smart as a brick. But when we talk about border collies, geez, they are a switched-on breed. So that doesn't shock me in the sense that you're saying, hey, they are easy to train.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious as how they're going to go out in the field, because you're going to use them for bailing, and I guess can we just have a quick overview, because some of my listeners might not be as into the whole pig sort of scene as you are. Do you want to explain the difference between what the dogs can do and why a border collie potentially will work a treat?
Yeah, so in my eyes, you've got two different styles of dogs. You've got luggers and bailers. So luggers will grab the pig, and you walk in there and dispatch it. And they're probably the most common. But in the last, I would say 10 years, there's been a change with the smaller dogs coming into bailing. So bailing, a lot of people think of bailing hay. It's not that. If you've ever got a GPS and you see bailing or a tread quarry, that means so when you see tread quarry, it means in America, there's a raccoon up in the tree, and the dogs are treading quarry. So they're underneath it. Bailing is basically they're down the bottom, they're running around the pig, and they're keeping him still. There's a lot of different styles have come out. A lot of guys there's harder bailers. I've talked a little bit in a couple of videos I've done about pressure, but in my eyes, I think, the way that the hunting industry is going, we're going to need to go to bailers and move away from the luggers. I don't think it'll happen very quickly, but it's something that's going to happen over time. People love their big dogs, and that's fine, absolutely fine. It's who they are, it's how they're brought up. I've always had both, luggers and bailers. So, with a mixture of my family, we always kind of run a different kind of pack, so to speak. So, bailers run around the pig, luggers go in there and grab them, and they both can find. So, people have drop dogs as such as well. So dogs that'll walk into the bail, and you can let them off, and they'll go and grab the pig as well. I personally just walk in and shoot them if I can. It's just easier and less stress on the pig. So that's just my opinion anyway.
So your YouTube, tell people what it is and what you're doing, because you're expanding as well.
Yeah, so I've been doing it for, I'd say 5 years now. I'll tell you how it started. So I went to a BCF at a Conda education night, and I watched this kid. He was asking all these questions, and I was there listening to the guy talk. And if you're in the fishing game, you would definitely know this person. Big name, huge knowledge, on TV. Everyone was starstruck, or the kids were. And the guy was talking about, retrieving a lure and so on and so forth. The kids, there was 3 kids there, and I still remember very clearly. They asked the most simplest questions, and I noticed they didn't have a father with them. It was their mothers that brought them. And there was one guy asking about knots, another guy asking about what lure to choose, and I can't remember what the third one was asking. And they just totally ignored the question of what knot to tie. Well, that's your basic, you can't tie a fishing lure on without doing a loop knot or, doing a uni knot. You can't do that. And these 3 kids just got totally ignored and were left out to the bigger, harder questions for the guy that was talking. Basically, I went away from that thinking, well, there needs to be more education for younger people to learn about, how to hunt, how to fish. My YouTube channel originally started off with hunting, fishing and cooking, bailing, scaling and barbecue. Bailing the pig, scaling the fish and barbecue. Sadly, with the algorithm, it didn't work out that way, and it's just stayed on pig hunting. If I put any other video up, it just doesn't work, so I just stay with pig hunting now and the podcast on bailing, scaling and barbecue. But I've just started a new little adventure with a friend of mine, Wild Game and Open Flame, and that'll be all about shooting, hunting, cooking. Basically, the plan is we're going to hunt, and then we're going to show you how to cook what we've just dispatched. And yeah, that's the plan. So I've got my first trip this weekend. Yeah, we're going to shoot some bunnies, and we're going to do a bit of a cook up, and also going to go meet a new property owner this weekend and have a chat to him, and yeah, hopefully get onto some deer. So see how we go.
Exciting times. I am a big fan of, we need to be able to push hunting in a positive light. And I think a really good way to do that is what you're doing there with the food.
Yeah.
And teaching people. And I know we've been talking about the season and how good that's been. And I think that's been a really good, step into that area where people who aren't necessarily hunters will be watching and seeing that it's more than just trying to get a kill for the thrill. And I think that's what a lot of people see hunting as. Yeah. And that's where that perception of, the poor animal, they don't have a high-powered rifle or those comments come from there. But I think that's how we change a lot of people's perceptions and understanding about what hunting's about by making sure that the killing side is also followed through and shown the end product. Yeah. Because people have no problem eating beef or fish or chicken or lamb from the supermarket. Yeah. They're detached from the killing side, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to be comfortable doing it, and we don't need everybody comfortable doing it, but we need people to understand that, hey, the animal I'm eating is the exact same, except the hunter's just going out there and doing it from start to finish on their own. They're being more sustaining of the population themselves, and they're just going about their business rather than letting somebody else do it and knowing where their food comes from. So for me, that's fantastic, and it's something that we really need. And I think the more that's out there, the better. And I hate when people tell me venison is gamey because I just don't get it. It's probably a mindset. I'll eat anything practically, and my view has always been it's a delicacy somewhere. Yeah. I've had a few people come over and try. I've been lucky to get some venison from a couple of people and things like that. So I love cooking. It's one of my passions as well. So I like what you're doing there in that sense. But just changing those mindsets. And I've been pretty lucky. I've had a few people go, wow, that's amazing. I wouldn't even know that's venison. Yeah. And then I've got the others who absolutely refuse to even try it. Yeah. And that's the key. That's the big one. So I think it needs to be that showing what's happening because we've changed so much. Cast back, my grandfather, even my dad to an extent, they lived on rabbits. Yeah. They'd go out and hunt them, exactly what you're going to do this weekend. And now we're just in such a I guess, we are a first world country, but it's just so we've got a plethora of food out there for people just to buy. No one goes hungry. No one, well, unless you're struggling money-wise, but you're not missing out on eating if you haven't got any, if you can't hunt something.
No, it's a hunt. What you just said, mate, is 100%. And for myself as a hunter, it's been a big education, especially starting baling, sculling, and barbecue. The thing is, a lot of people can't eat wild pork. Now I eat wild pork regularly now because there's blocks I know that are safe to eat pigs, and I kind of I'm a butcher of 10 years. And I've been around it long enough to know what's not good to eat and what is to eat. So a lot of my first stuff with my father was for the chiller game, and what you're saying there is 100% because those pigs were being used. They were going over to Germany. They were being made for salamis and stuff. My mind always was just okay that pigs were money, kangaroos were money, so on and so forth. As I've gotten older, seeing the price of living, seeing how hard things can get, hunting has had to take a turn for me. I was lucky that I have a trade that involves meat, so I can my old boy, he has a property there where he's basically there to cull the deer. There's that many. So we would go on a weekend, we'd shoot, I don't know how many, and we would process them all. And we would have a huge amount of jerky. And I said to Dad, there's a bit more, we all love jerky. Like we would go through 10 kilos between our mates in 5 minutes, between 6 or 7 of us. And we'd take, you go and do a big trip away, you'd take a huge amount of jerky. And it wouldn't last, the first week, sadly. So, my process of everything has had to change because pigs are, I would normally would just go out and kill them, get them ready for the farmer, and that's just how it is. And now I look at it as okay, that's meat, and I've had to change that because it's just the way that everything is these days. I run a business in Brisbane, so when I go hunting, I've got to pay fuel, I've got to pay bullets, everything, dog food now. I need something back for. My partner won't eat wild pig, but I will. And I'll make sausages and we'll do all that. And, the kids don't mind. But having to change the thinking process of myself first was a big one. I struggle with that whole process. It took me quite a while. But now I'm, shooting deer. We're shooting, rabbits this weekend. I just can't wait. That's why I've started this new channel and, cooking is one of my favourite things to do, and that's why I thought, well, we've got to talk about it. We've got to do it. There's a couple of great YouTube channels. Aussie Bush Harvest, Meat Eater. Those guys just are perfect for the industry, and I think we need to change the thought process, just like you said.
The pig thing has always been in the back of my mind of, are they safe to eat? Because when you're talking pigs, you're talking brucellosis, Q fever, and the list goes on. What are you looking for? And we're not going to hold you to this legally, but what are you looking for? You, as a butcher, you've probably got a bit more of an understanding of dealing with a lot more carcasses and seeing things that you go, oh, that doesn't look right.
Yeah.
What are some tips for people that want to try their hand at doing it? I noticed you said there's a couple of safe blocks.
Yeah.
Is there a reason they're safe? Is that just because you know what they're eating?
Yeah, there's plenty of food for them. And I'm not talking. So if I know anything, in my opinion, anything west of, I shouldn't say Queensland. Let's change that. So anything out west where they're eating roadkill, any leftover meat, scavenging meat, I just would not touch. Where there's blocks around Brisbane, they're eating frogs, they're eating roots, leaves, into the plants basically. They're going to be pretty good. And same with crop pigs. Once you think that, okay, that pig is healthy, that looks good, I always look at the liver. You gut them, you have a look. If there's any white spots or anything that just doesn't look, if it's that not that pure, rich blood look, I wouldn't be touching it. I had a property where the deal was I would give the pig to the property owner. He wanted to make his own salamis. we dogged this pig, got him up, I gutted him, and he had a bullet hole through his back of his, just behind his chest. So the guy tried doing a good shot, but obviously it wasn't a very good shot and it just didn't turn out. Anyway, that pig had lived a normal life from the looks of it. It did pretty well because he just kept going. He ran away like there was no tomorrow until the dogs got him. And I was gutting him and I said to the guy, I wouldn't eat this. He's got a bullet hole through him. It was amazing to actually look at his insides. He looked perfect inside. Nothing wrong with him. But it was just that little bullet hole that just was like, oh, I just wouldn't touch it because you don't know what's going on. So mainly my big thing is where they are, what they're eating, and their liver, and having a good look on their insides. If their insides don't look right or you see worms, just no, don't even touch it. And I always, for a safe bet, if I ever do cook pork, it's well done, or I brine it, then I do it well done anyway, just because I do not want to get anything from it. And obviously you worm yourself and all that as well. So yeah.
I've read up on Q fever because there's actually a vaccine you can get for it, and it basically similar to sort of glandular fever. So you're basically bedridden for the rest of your life, not the whole time, but it comes in sort of like a bit of a roller coaster. You can be fine 1 minute and then just flat on your back the next, no energy and tired. And it's not something that I'd like to get because I think that would drastically impact your life. And you made a couple of good points there talking about the cooking, and I think pork's over 75 degrees Celsius, I think, is where you're aiming for. And I did one the other night, not wild pig, just normal, and I got it up to 80 and it was still comfortably moist and tender. And I love running I've got an Inkbird Pro that I chuck in the smoker, whack it in there, and just it tells you when it's done. It's fantastic. So easy to be able to knock that out and cook. Are you worried about your dogs? Like, if the pig's got something, are you worried that can be transmissible to the dog or pass through to them?
That's why I've gone bailers, mate. Ideally, I don't want the dogs touching the pig at all. They will have to pull the pig up if it's a good pig. But yeah, ideally, the blocks I've got don't have any any nasties. But I do know guys up towards where I'm going hunting in a few weeks' time, they have it. And my dogs are young, so they're not going to leave the crate. Yeah, you've got to really, really be careful on that. And that's why a big reason why I went to bailers, because I just don't want to have that issue. Like you said with Q fever, I know a guy, my grandfather had it, and I know another guy who had it. And my old boy's got Ross River, and it is one of the worst things to get. One day you're fine, the next day you're just on the couch and you can't move. You can get shots for Q fever. Mostly if you work in abattoirs, you'll get a shot before you start working there. So if you are around livestock and I know a guy who got it through, he was going on to behind a cattle truck, and that's how he got Q fever, because it's an airborne thing. So yeah, if you can get a shot, I'd get a shot if you're around livestock a lot. Because once you get Q fever, you can't shake it. It's a horrible, horrible thing to have. So, yeah.
Mate, so I guess let's talk a couple of different things here. Is podcasts. You've been going since 2019. How'd that start? Like, is that the same as sort of the education pathway that the YouTube was there and went, you know what, I'll throw the podcast in there too? There's not much in the way of not on the airways for pigging? So
I started the podcast 2019. Originally, it was just to get out and to meet new people and to educate. Had people like Scott Fry on, who's a butchering genius. He had a home kill setup. Did a lot for I think he did a lot for the ADA and a few other deer mobs, butchering wise, and also just teaching people what to look for and what not to look for. Podcast for me was to get out and meet new people. It was really the first big thing, and it's been great. I've learnt a lot. I've met a lot of new people, and I've made some really good friendships. Some guys I talk to nearly every day, which is fantastic, and You meet people like Cody Gearon, who I had on a few months back now, and you just send each other stupid memes all the time, and it's just it's a great way to get the community in my way working together. The hunting community is, in my eyes, has come a long way in the last 5 years. We all used to, in my opinion, backstab each other. It was quite of a nasty place to be. Now we all want to work together, because I think we've all realised that we're on borrowed time. Shit's gonna hit the fan, and if we don't work together, we're gonna lose it. So I started the podcast for one, the friendships and to get to know a couple of people, and the other one was also education. Talking to people. I did one with a guy up at Cape York, wild bushman. And Alex, his name is, Fullerton, and the knowledge he's got about the trees and plants is just unreal. Now, I didn't do that on my YouTube channel. That was just on the Spotify and on the normal app, the old school way, before I did it on the YouTube channel. And there was a few. I did like Boring Australia. Now I can talk to these guys and ask their advice. It's a great way to learn and to help people.
Yeah, it's one thing mate, sounds very similar to sort of my path into it, is that I had the young kids come out and a couple of little twinnies and went, geez, I'm going to be really time poor.
Yeah.
But I love hunting. I love talking about hunting. I'm, on the phone to people talking about hunting. And I went, well, what's a way that I can continue to learn? I'm a big learner, and, I pride myself on being what I call a lifelong learner, and just constantly trying to improve whatever I'm focused on at the time, or the multiple things. So that's where I sort of went, hey, this would be a really good way to talk to people about hunting, learn, bounce ideas, and it's been a really good journey learning from so many good guests and hearing their stories. And I think that's what I've taken the most out of it. And I'm really loving being out solo and being able to talk to people like yourself and talk to people. I had a game caller on who builds game. Man, I had so much fun talking about that one. And it was something that I hear it and go, oh my God, I would never have thought about those things, or so many little technical things that can change so much, and that can mean the difference between a good game call and not a good game call. Yeah. And even that, man, that was cool. And that to me it resonates with me. I retain the information and I hear it and I listen, and the podcast is me questioning people because I want to know. And there's interesting stuff.
It's exactly why I do it. It's, I've had a fascination with fox calling, whistling, and I got Ron Keane on from Silver Fox Whistles, and to me it was an idol for me. I got given Rod's DVD and fox whistle about 15 years ago, and I've always just admired how easy he made it look. And I've only got shot a wild dog and one fox on a silver fox whistle, and I'm just going, you make it look so easy. And that's why I do it as well. It's just such a great way to, learn and get people on. I'm like you, mate. I just want to get education. If you're not learning something, you're standing still. You're not moving forward. I've had a good friend who recently passed away, who was on the YouTube channel a fair bit, and I've done a fair few podcasts with him. And he said to me one day, I love listening to it because it's just you'll get a great chat. You're going to get lots of education, and you might pick up a trick here, a bit of a trick or a tip. Like I had David from Played Up NT, and he was talking about how he would walk his dogs. A lot of guys these days will just drive around a paddock, and they're not getting any pigs. David walks everywhere because his access is really hard. He will catch pigs every time. His dogs will go leaps and bounds further because they're working on the ground. They're using their nose. They're using their scent. Dogs have natural ability. They're going to hunt. When you put them on the back of a ute, they're still hunting, but you're losing that. You're depending on just wind alone. And that's why, we talked, I spoke to David because I could just see there was something different about him. He's switched on with that kind of thing. And I've had a lot of guests, as yourself. I loved that podcast you did with the guy doing the calls. I listened to that, and your bear guy. That was awesome.
Yeah, they two that obviously I had a previous podcast, and they're ones that, the hunting call especially, that was a guy who I wanted on from day one, and it never panned out. And so as soon as I went out on my own, I went, I'm going to contact Paul. Shout out to Paul from H2K Hunting. Because
that's right, Paul. Sorry.
That's all right.
He scared the crap out of me. He was doing something on a Facebook group, and he was calling it. And I said, my comment was, if I was walking through the bush and I heard that, it would scare the crap out of me, but you definitely get foxes. It was just a squealing rabbit sound.
Yeah, he's got some good gear. But for me, his passion.
Yeah.
He's all actually. Someone messaged me. Shout out to Tristan. He messaged me and said that guy's all in. He's and I was like, he is. He's so passionate. He just loves it. And I thrive on the enthusiasm of others.
Yeah.
And just hearing stories and whatnot, it makes me excited for my hunt, or it makes me excited to want to try something new. As you said, I love hearing, not necessarily have to be big names too.
Yeah.
Just having a chat to someone. I've got so many good people I've met through the podcast, and they've messaged us, and just having chats, and that's what I appreciate. There's a lot of good people in hunting. And when I'm talking to them and I'm having a conversation, they might tell us something that I like that.
Yeah.
Or they might tell me something I can put my little spin on.
Yeah.
And go, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And hey, it might not work, but it's that evolving of myself that I really like to see. And we sort of had a bit of quick chat. I went out this morning with the bow chasing deer, and second time in the state forest, Belanglo State Forest. So it doesn't bother me. People know what forest I go to. And I thought I was in this nice little spot, and went, I think this is where they're going to come through. And I saw a mob of 8 coming down the hill, and I'm like, yeah, perfect. It was pretty windy, but I was nice and sheltered. They had no idea. There was a different trail, and they went up that, which was 70 meters further. And I was like, you know what? I didn't think about that. Yeah. I should have thought about the fact that there's multiple trails, and position myself where I could possibly be accessing both, as opposed to all in on the one that I was. But hey, learning curve. I'm going to head back out there. I know roughly a bit of a pattern now. I know what time they're coming through. I know where, and see if that gets me a little bit closer. That is just invaluable. And I think, it's funny. Some people, I haven't got deer yet, and that's cool. Some people see it as a big failure. I consistently think it's great in one sense, because I'm working hard to get it, and I'm learning all these things along the way. And I can't wait to get the first one, because that one's going to be so damn rewarding, and I'm going to be super bloody happy. And that to me is the appealing of hunting. Yeah. And that's what I want from it. That's the challenge. I do sort of hear these amazing properties where there's, deer everywhere, and people sort of go and they get one every single time. But I don't know if it doesn't appeal, that there's not that romanticism about it. No. That for me, I wouldn't turn it down shooting a deer on one of those, but I don't think that's a challenge in the sense too. Yeah. And I want that challenge as well. And hence why I got the bow. Yeah. People are probably sitting there going, you're an idiot, mate. You can't even get one with the rifle, and you're out there chasing them with your bow. Which, mind you, I was sitting there today, and I did have that thought about myself, because I was like, these 8 are 70 to 80 meters away from me. If I had the rifle, oh man, that would have been just perfect. But hey, that's hunting. And they were a fair bit more relaxed, probably because there isn't that hunting pressure and rifle fire going on in those state forests. So
no, that's you're spot on, mate. And honestly, my opinion will be, once you get your first one, it'll be a domino effect. Yeah, you spent the time working it out. My old boy used to say to me, 3 days to learn the place. After your 3 days, you might get something. And in that case, I've kind of, when I was guiding, it took me 3 weeks. Once I learned the place, because it's a huge place, the pigs just came. You kind of started working out. And same with deer. But I honestly reckon, mate, once you nail your first one, it'll be like a switch is flicked, and it'll all start coming together, and it'll be awesome to watch. Looking forward to it.
I hope so. I hope you're right, because I think I've probably made it harder for myself. And this is the learning curve and working it out. I have still not been to the same state forest more than twice.
Yeah.
That hurts. And I was thinking about that today. And that's the other thing about being in the bush, isn't it? Like just reflecting and thinking and growing when you're out there. Because I was sitting there today or standing there today, and amongst the 100 yellowtail black cockatoos that were just calling like crazy, and I was like, this is fantastic. I can make some noise and no deer is hearing me over these chirpy buggers. That doesn't help. Like I've been pretty lucky. I've been able to get into the state forest on the first go and either find deer, or the second one definitely seen deer. Like today is a perfect example. Found a heap of sign with a new hunter that I'd taken out, then got in there and seen them today and seen them close. They didn't spook, so they didn't even know I was there. And then I go, well, but that's where it stopped for me, because I haven't got the third or the fourth or the fifth. I've got to get better at that. And that's the reality that I've sort of come to and gone, you know what, that is a learning curve for me. I got to spend that time in there because, as you said, you need to know it. You need to know the terrain and where they're moving and where you're going to be best positioned. And that comes with time. Yeah. And I'm guilty of that. I'll put my hand up and say I'm time poor, and that probably has a lot of the state forests, rifle state forests from me are a couple of hours. So they are the weekend away, and I don't get to do them as often as I would like. So that makes it a little bit trickier, but I don't hate that either. No. I like it because it's something to look forward to. And we all probably, a lot of us have jobs we don't, parts of it you love, parts of it you hate. That's part of life. And I look at it as that's the carrot, the dangling in there to get out again.
Yeah.
And those trips are amazing. Talking of trips, man, your New Zealand one looked cool.
It was beautiful. Only saw 2 wild deer. Mate, I can't wait to get back. I've you can't see it behind me. I've got bags everywhere. I've got still unpacking. So we've been back for the week, and I'm still depressed, so to speak. Struggling. Yeah, it's been a hard week at work. Beautiful place. So my old boy, he runs hospitals up in Cape York, and he had a Kiwi girl working with him, and her husband's a giant man. I don't know how to explain this any other way. He was a junior All Black. He was a prop. He'd be 6'3", and he's built like a fridge. You wouldn't think he could walk, and I don't think we stopped once when we were on the hunting trip. So I went over there for 2 weeks. It was more of a family trip, and I had 1 day of hunting with him. I honestly don't care. I didn't shoot anything, but it was just such a pretty place. The guy that took us out, Hamish, was just a beast. I've never hunted in this kind of weather. He points to the water and just goes, "Oh, see that colour? That's coming off a glacier. That means it's cold." Then we had to walk through that the next day. So coming from Cape York to walking through glacier water was a bit of a shock. But yeah, I've lined up a tar hunt with him next year. So
that's cool.
Just got to work out the best time to go, but yeah, tar hunt will be the next thing planned. It's just I can't get over how pretty it was. I don't know if I'll do a video yet because I didn't get anything, but it was more the point that it was just I just look at the drone footage and just froth. It's just so pretty.
Mate, the scenery's just as good sometimes. And, I'm a big meat eater fan, always have been. And I don't mind his videos when he doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
And I think it sends the message out there because, again, what we were talking about a bit earlier is saying, hey, that these the people that aren't into hunting think that it's shooting fish in a barrel. And a lot of the times, depending on the properties and access and things like that, sometimes, most of the time it's not like that.
Yeah.
And I'm foreseeing it when, hey, you didn't see anything or didn't get anything as part of being hunting, and just the experiences. Like this morning, I think I saw pretty much every native animal known to man before I saw the deer. And, there was at one stage, I shit you not, it was probably 200 yellow-tailed black cockatoos in the trees. And they were just all around us, and within 10 metres of us, they didn't even know I was there. I was under this nice little rocky outcrop.
Yeah.
And I was actually trying to use that as a bit of an alarm, and they all took off at one stage, and I just went, oh, something spooked them walking underneath them or whatever, and nothing came about. But that's all right. I was like, oh, that could be to my advantage, because they were just, oh man. But just watching them and hearing them, the noise they're making from ripping bark off trees and things like that, and I sort of sit there always going, how many people see things like this? How many people get that opportunity and, to be in the moment and learn? And that's what I liked about some of your clips on your Facebook and whatnot.
Yeah.
New Zealand just looks so spectacular.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could look at the view alone and watch videos just of hiking. And I've done that previously, watch people just hike some remote, beautiful spots.
Yeah.
There's so much exploring out there. And then when you tack on a challenge as well, like hunting, it's just a win-win.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful place, and you could basically close your eyes, take a photo, and it'd be perfect. So it was such a beautiful, beautiful place. And to experience with my dad, something I've always wanted to do. It was actually a bit of a pretty emotional day, that one, because it was actually my father, his dad passed away that same day. So it was just. We knew it was coming. We knew what was happening, and it was just good to, be there for Dad at that period and that time. It was we could have shot. Oh, Hamish said he could have got him. There was a red doe just trotting away, and she turned around and gave him one look. But he just said, I didn't have a clear, safe shot, and just he didn't want to take it, and didn't have that proper shot, so he didn't take it. So I said to him, that's good option. No point wounding an animal and not getting the rest of it. So, it was a beautiful place, mate. I can't wait to get back, and I probably will do a video. It's just probably be a very short one. End up driving to Queenstown. There's some massive red stags on the side of the road. They were farmed, but I had to get out and film them because just huge heads. I just got a horn straight away. I just said, oh, what a beautiful animal. So basically my mission for the rest of the week was to go to as many pubs and restaurants and find venison. So I've had a few dishes of venison in the last few weeks, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Mate, I've been to New Zealand once, and my luck sometimes, I'm the unluckiest bloke alive. And I went over once, I was playing in a World Cup over there, and we got hit with a tornado. And it was 5 kilometres. I still remember we had to rush into underneath the stadium and basically cleared all the fields out, get under the stadium and just hunker down and hope it came within 5 Ks of us. So it was, I was just like, I was only there for like 4 days. What are the chances? And a tornado is quite unusual for that region as well. Usually there's sort of hurricanes like we have over here, but It was pretty insane. But it is just such a beautiful country and whatnot. And look, those are the memories, aren't they? Like you're gonna think about those things and just remember how great they were, and that's such a win. Let's get back to the YouTube with the new one. So you're a butcher. You partnered up with someone on there, and they're similar. They've got some similar skill sets as you.
Yeah, so Jesse is my, we'll say brother-in-law. So Jesse he's a gun hunter. He's not a huge social media person, which is, for me it worked out perfectly. He had a lot of pictures and stuff, but he'd never just posted it. But Jesse's love is also videography. Now, over the years, I've been doing this 5 years now. I've like we talked about education. I've had to teach myself how to film. I've missed out on a lot of hunting or fishing because I was the one holding the camera. Where Jesse loves holding the camera. He wants to be the videographer. He wants to be that cinematic feeling. So that's what we're aiming towards, is getting the best possible quality to put out a version of hunt, catch, cook kind of thing. So, we're going to do some rabbits this weekend. Like I said, we're probably going to go talk to this new property owner. We've got a lot planned. It's just trying to work out the best way. We've both got kids. We both see each other regularly. We've got a huge plan we want to do. So I've got a couple of things, business ideas I want to, we've talked about and we're going to probably put together soon. I'm going to run some education courses / I'm going to do some cooking and some barbecue rubs, because it all fits in together. And I'm just it just excites me. It gives me that shivers. I just love it. I could talk. If you want to talk food and hunting all day, let's do it. This would be a 6-hour podcast. Would beat Joe Rogan easily. So Jesse and I, we've both got that passion. Jesse's a bow hunter himself, so we will take turns. I've said to him that, let me get one and we'll swap over. So he's gone out and bought all the camera gear, and he's got a bit more knowledge behind it, and he's a real big on for education and learning as well.
Look, it's great. I love it. And it's one that I'm really passionate about, it's education and getting things out there and doing it in a positive way that brings the community together and puts it out in a positive light, because you need that.
Yeah.
We're always going to have the negative views and the hate, and the more we can limit the ammunition for those people, the better it is for our livelihood, our sport, whatever you want to call it. Mate, what is your favourite way to cook? Because I'm a massive, massive fan of pellet grills.
Yeah.
And they are just, I've only had mine for probably 4 years now, maybe 5.
Yeah.
And it is now my absolute favourite way to cook. And I just, I froth on it. The flavour, the smoky, just oozes into it, and it's given it an element, and I love a rub now. So that is just, you're talking my language when you're saying, hey, I do definitely think this is the connection for people, getting it out there. And I should give a shout out to Felix, who he posts up regularly on Facebook. His venison legs I think he runs the Traeger. And, oh, my God, they look good. And it's funny because I've heard a lot of people go, you can't do it with game because it dries it out. And it's just, you're not doing it well, or you're not paying the attention or basting or mopping or whatever you need to do to keep it moist. But you definitely can.
Yeah.
And his stuff is always looking amazing. I'm very jealous. Mate, how do you like to cook?
Mate, I've got a few ways, to be honest. I recently, just before Christmas, had a pellet smoked rooster roast, and that to me was the best piece of deer I've ever had. I'm a big eater. I'm not a small guy, and I went back for thirds.
Load up.
It was, well, I knew I wasn't going to be getting any time soon. I flew in and I flew out the next day, so it was just. I was there for a quick stopover, and it was just the best venison I've ever had, and that was on a smoker, pellet smoker. So normally I'm a charcoal smoker, so I've got the Weber. When I can afford it, I'm going to get a pellet smoker. It has been talked about because it's just easy, I believe. Charcoal takes a little bit of mucking around. But yeah, I'm a big one for pies as well, so slow cooker, chuck them in a bit of pastry. Very easy to do. You can't stuff that up. My partner thought she was having lamb shanks a while back, and I didn't tell her, but they were venison shanks. So she didn't know. She didn't know the difference, and she never will unless she listens to this. But I've got a few ways of doing it, and I kind of do as much as possible if I can. So jerky, slow cooking. If it's a nice piece, I'll put on the smoker. And I don't mind crumbing and schnitzels as well. I've got a bit of a thing for that too.
Mate, you mentioned costs there on the smoker. You can do it quite inexpensively. And so I set up, I sometimes, people say buy once, cry once, but I sometimes don't go that way. And I didn't with the pellet smoker. I actually went the cheapie.
Yeah.
And I went to Bunnings and grabbed the Pit Boss.
Yep.
And the reason being was because I went, well, I don't know if I'm going to use it that often. I don't know if I'm going to be getting my money's worth. So I want to test out what it's like, and if I'm liking it, if I'm looking after it, et cetera, et cetera. And because I had a couple of mates went out and they bought the full-fledged Traeger with everything on it, and it was well over the $1,000. And I was able to get mine. I think it cost me. I got the mid-size one. It cost me about $5.99 at the time,
Okay.
and which I thought's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have all the gadgets that the Traeger comes with, but as I said to you before, I bought the Inkbird Pro, which is Wi-Fi connected to the to my phone. Plug it in, plug and play. It's good to go. It's an external device as opposed to being on the actual unit. But set and forget, 100%. You just put it in and go whatnot. What I've actually found as a tip is I actually went and bought a smoke tube.
Okay.
And so now I get the smoke tube and I light it up, and I've done it actually with charcoal. And had the smoke tube running inside the kettle as well. And geez, that goes good because you get that charcoal flavour that I absolutely love. Everyone loves a roast chalk.
Oh, yeah.
And that with the smoke tube that's just, sizzling away down there, just pumping out smoke right through. And you got the best of both worlds. And you can do it inexpensive as well. But I've also even gone to the stage, I'm going to be crazy with the smoking at the moment probably, because I run the smoke tube in the smoker and instead of just putting it on the smoke setting so it's not cooking, I just whack it up early. So I'll cook it at 120, 150. I've been doing a heap of briskets and doing that. So instead of having this 12-hour cook, I'll put it on 120 generally or 150, one of those, depending how long I've got, in with the smoke tube. It's getting the smoke flavour with the heat, and it's ready a couple of hours earlier, so it's not that big thing. And man, it's been turning out good. And I love what you said about pie making. Could not recommend a pie maker more highly, because that's what we do. The brisket, whatever's left over. We had venison the other week, backstrap, throw it in, make something up, and man, they're just so good the next days. We had them a couple of nights ago, and I just went, that was, even though they've been frozen, geez, it was as good as the first time.
Yeah.
Man, and it's just such a good way. And as you said before, you touched on the pricing of everything. Man, you got to start looking at this stuff. Like, I went out the other day and $96 for 20 308s. And I just went, Jesus, like it's life's getting expensive. And if you can find these little ways to bring it down by getting your own meat or cooking more at home. I did beef short ribs the other night, and we actually went to a restaurant because the kids are finally in daycare, so we had a little bit of time, and took the missus out. And it's been 11 months since we've gone out together and not had kids around. And I sat at the pub, and nothing special, just the pub. Beef short ribs, I looked at it, was $36 a plate.
Yeah.
And I said, her and I had the exact same meal, probably more. And it would have cost us $72 there. And at home, I think it ended up costing us maybe $15.
Yeah.
And they're pretty hard to stuff up. Like, you don't have to, I'm no chef by any stretch of the imagination, but they're pretty easy not to stuff up. You set, forget, make sure you're basting it, and geez, it turns out perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, the price is scary. And I think that's a big reason why I'm doing the whole wild game and open flame, is because I really can't afford not to either feed myself. The girls, my partner and stepdaughter don't eat a huge amount. So this weekend, if I get a couple of rabbits, I'll bring them home. I'll mix them with a bit of pork belly or something like that and put them in a pie. Just ways to make things cheaper. I buy a lot of, if I do go and buy food, I buy bulk these days, and I slice it myself. And I'm always watching specials. It's just, if I get a deer, that thing is top to bottom used. I'm hopefully going goat hunting in the next couple of months, and same thing again. The dogs will have a few. If I get a billy, the dogs will get the meat, which is, dog food's gone up as well. It's ridiculous.
Oh, hasn't it what? And if you got big dogs,
Yeah. Now, it's another reason why I got small ones, just less food. But yeah, it's the price of living these days is just, it's through the roof. And that's why, I always tell my mates, start a side business, start something. I've now got a business. I've got also, 2 YouTube channels, a podcast. I don't get paid. I get paid from BSB a little bit to YouTube, but they're making that very difficult these days. So now I'm looking at building courses, and I want to do education weekends where I get people and show them how to butcher. We'll get them down. We'll show them how to process a pig or a deer, cut them up, make sausages, cabana, wurst, Hams will be very hard over a weekend, but you can basically, I've got a cheat system which I can do and show people. But yeah, you've got to, just got to keep moving forward and being on the ball. It's just so difficult these days, especially with kids.
Oh, 100%. And my kids, my little one, he's 3 and he eats the same amount as I do. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know how or where it goes. But, mate, the butchering, it's such an art form and skill within itself. I knocked off my first goats a while back, and it was a hot day. And that really sucked because I really was rushing through trying to get the meat as cool as possible. And I got a billy and a nanny, and same deal. I used the billy. I just used the meat for the dogs, so I wasn't sort of too worried. But on the nanny, I was like, well, that's for me and the fam. So I want to do the best I can here. Geez, I hacked it up because...
But that's okay. That's nothing.
Look, it is. I'm not selling it at Coles in a nice little packet.
Exactly.
But I sort of sat there and just went, oh, man, I would have loved if it was my 100th goat and the heat wasn't playing on my mind as much and I wasn't worried about meat spoilage and things like that. And I was lucky enough, I did the commercial kangaroo harvester course through TAFE.
Oh, yeah.
And that taught me a lot of good skills in the sense of what to look for, getting, the meat, under 4 degrees for bacteria and things like that, because that's always been a concern. And I know it's a concern of a lot of people out there is that, okay, yeah, the hunting is hard, but when I do pull that trigger or release that arrow, what happens next? How do I cool that animal down? How do I make sure that the meat's not wasted? And that's a real tricky one. I've heard a lot of different things and, I've seen so many things that I personally wouldn't do, like people throwing it in ice water and just throwing the meat in there. And, from what I learnt through, it's a professional course, that's a no-no. Yeah. All these things to minimize the amount of different bacteria that gets on it and whatnot. So how do you go about doing it? Have you got any tips or tricks, especially with your butchery background?
Ideally, if you can get a fridge, that'd be the best thing possible. But yeah, like you said, with ice water, no, but water brings bacteria. So stay away from that. A big one I was always told was to hang them and let the air flow through them. I know it'd be quite difficult for hunters like you and me to drive around. You'd probably take your primals off and then drive around. But obviously it's very, very difficult in that kind of situation like you and I would have. But if you can, break the legs off and get some airflow through them. So go for a drive, have them on the back of the ute, hanging if possible. If not, it's one of those things where you put your cheesecloth over it or your pillowcase, hang them up if you haven't got the fridge, let them cool. It depends. If I'm hunting in summer, I've got to have that fridge ready to go beside me if I'm going to shoot something. And most times I'm only a couple of k's from the car. I love my walking and stuff, but I'm not going to go for a meat hunt in the middle of summer too far from the car. So if I do shoot something, they're right there with the fridge and straight in. It's a very difficult one, that one. But yeah, as long as if for me personally, I'd be taking legs off, hanging in a tree, keep processing it. And while you're doing that, you're obviously getting that crust on the outside, and hopefully you cool it. As long as you get it away from the guts and everything to cool the process down is the best possible way, and leave salt and water out of it as much as you can.
It's funny. I remember someone taught me. I've heard it a few times now, but a lot of people have the cool esky and they might throw the animal in straight away. And I remember being taught saying, hey, that's not great in an esky. And I was like, oh, esky cold, why is that? And they went, well, it just is an insulator. Yeah. So if you throw a real hot carcass into an esky and you lock her up, well, what do you think is going to happen? Like the ice melts in there. Like it's not a fridge, as you said, that's consistently pushing through that cold air. Yeah. So that's one out there. If you didn't know, don't throw it in straight into an esky. You've got to let it cool down before getting it in there, by all means, I run a big Yeti, and I don't run the ice. I know a lot of people run ice, and I've seen a heap of different ideas, some great ones where they put a rack on it, or so it's not actually touching any of the ice or the water, because hell, those ices that you buy from the servo, they tell you don't even put them in your drinks because they could have bacteria and whatnot. Do you want that on your meat? And sitting on that for a couple of days, definitely not. I actually get the 20-litre tubs of water, let some out, and I'll freeze them. And then I've got a massive Yeti which goes pretty much the length of the ute, and I'll just chuck 2 or 3 of them in there, because the bigger the block of ice, the longer it lasts as well. So a little bit of a tip for people out there if you want to try that out. I've been successful with it, and it doesn't release that water out for the animal as well, so you're not having to worry as much. But look, it is one of those tricky things, especially in a country like Australia. We're talking, we are a hot country, and I guess that's where, for me, I like to try and do a heap of hunting in the winter, and then as we come into summer, I like to hit the fishing. And I've always been a bit keen spear fisherman, and fishing is also right up there for me. Not as much as spear fishing, because I just like to see the animals and chase them and whatnot, but that's been a big one. I'm guessing you're very similar, that's how you run it too. And being up north, geez, you got some good fishing up there. My parents live up there around just off Gari or Fraser Island. And great spot, great access. Oh, some cracking fishing going on up there.
That's where my parents live up that way as well, and my brother's up in Cape York. So I'm the same, mate. The second like this time of year, it's hunt as much as I can, and I'm pretty lucky because I've got people where I can go and stay. It's either a quick fly, up to Cape York, or a drive up to central Queensland where you can go catch a barra. I've been pretty lucky in that kind of case. So normally, wintertime hunting as much as I can. Summer, bring out the fish. But I do like a winter fish too. There's some in Brizzy. There's you're chasing your jew and your squid in winter time, and it's a great way to catch a good heap of calamari. I love going out and squidding.
Squid jigging's fun, isn't it? From the rocks, it is. Chucking it in. It's almost like trout fishing, but with squid. And
the kids love it too. You want to see a squid pop up and
start shooting ink at you, and it's great.
I love it. So it all depends. My boat's got a hole in it at the moment, so once I get that fixed, I would be. Well, for example, before the boat had a hole, I would be every second weekend in the water crabbing, or I'd be up, Harvey Bay chasing some fish, doing as much as I possibly can. And then probably Christmas time, I'll head up to Cooktown, see my brother. I'll head up into Mareeba where he lives. So we just, wherever the fish are, or he's got a couple of properties in the Gulf, we go and hunt. So it all kind of depends on the situation and timing. But normally, wintertime hunting, fishing's also summer.
It's the way to go. It's a good lifestyle we have here in Australia, being able to do a bit of everything. And I think we need to promote that more and make sure that people are getting on board. And,
absolutely.
Joining up. It's not hunting versus fishing and all that sort of stuff. We should be going, hey, this is the outdoors. We all have a passion for the outdoors and want to experience it and promote it as such, because, it'll be a terrible day if we ever get to the stage where we lose it. And I don't want that for my kids, because you just learn so many things out there that
that's it.
You, as much as I love YouTube and learning from YouTube, it's not the same.
No.
It's not nowhere near sitting on a lounge watching a television or a screen, and it's just it gives, while it tries to encapsulate what's going on, it's not there. So
no, we've really got to take a good hard look at the hunting industry. And for example, in my mind, 5 years ago we had how many hunting podcasts? From memory, I think we had 3. Jason Selms, who I think is slowly backing off, which I wish he didn't. I want Jason.
Yeah, 100%.
He had a great.
The more, the merrier.
Exactly. We need more. We need. I think there's a new podcast that's come out the other day. Backpacking. I can't.
Oh yeah, Australian.
Yes.
Australian Hunters Backcountry.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Yep.
5 years ago, we didn't have that. We only had Jason Selms and maybe a couple, not a huge deal. Now we've got huge amount. You got, Send It Mate podcast, the Hunters Campfire, yourself, mine. You've got this. There's quite a few popping up.
Zach Hunting Connections.
Zach is great for the community. If you watch Zach, he is all about bringing everyone together.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I'm keen to have him on, talk about bow fishing. He knows that. I've just, for some reason, I got bow fishing just on my mind. I just can't shake it. I love the bow, and I'm like, oh, how cool is that? Just cruising along the shore, or even just on a little dinghy and just sitting there and nailing things from that. Oh, I don't know.
It looks great.
I'll be picking his brain for sure at some stage.
Well, I've tried to get him on for a while. We just can't. I think his days are Monday, Tuesday, where I work at night shifts those days, so we can never work out a proper time. And he's always busy, and so am I. So, yeah, please get him on and talk about bow fishing, because I love hearing him. He gets so excited about it. So
it's enthusiasm, isn't it? I think that's the attraction for people like Zach and Profty, and that passion and enthusiasm, and it's infectious. And that's what you want. You want to hear from people that you can tell love it, are invested. Yeah. And, this takes a lot of time. A lot of people don't understand the time it takes away from family and things like that too. And, you've got to want to do it and be all in to be able to do something like throw out a podcast. And, because it's not just, they recorded for an hour or 2 hours. No. It's then editing, it's then organising, it's then releasing, it's the setup. There's so much to it. And, I love that side of it. Don't get me wrong. It's so good. But it does take away from time. So you need those people to have that passion and want to get information out there and get good quality stuff out there so people are loving it. And everyone's got a niche. Yeah. That's why I was happy to get on here, because, if someone listens to mine that doesn't listen to yours, great, you might have a new listener. And I'm not in competition with you. I want you to thrive as well. And that's a win for what we're doing. And that's what we need. We need to be promoting what we do and having these discussions. I've had a great time. I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing about it. And as I said to you, off air, I really don't have a great deal of experience with pigging.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been something that really has interested me a lot. Yeah. I don't know why. I've had a couple of mates in the past that have done it, just never sort of got into it. But it's cool to hear about, and it's cool to learn and hear what you're looking for and little tips and tricks, because I might not do it, but hey, I might shoot a pig.
Yeah.
So that could be something that I go, hey, now, I remember having a chat with Lawson. If let's check it out. Maybe I can think about eating this thing. Yeah. And that's a win. So
no, spot on, mate. And I agree with everything you just said. Enthusiasm makes things so much easier. I've watched all of Profty's stuff. I'm a huge fan of Profty. I've never had the kahunas to ask him on my podcast. I just think he's just so far above me. It's beyond me. But I've never watched a rifle video. I'm not a huge, I love my guns. I've got people who can help me with it. But I just watched his rifle video from start to finish, the one he brought out 6 days ago. Start to finish, and he was so enthusiastic about it. It was so great to, listen to. And I just sit there giggling away, going, this is great to watch. How good is this? He's, just kitted this whole new gun up. Now he's going into Victoria to hunt sambar. And how excited he was when he got that grouping right. And same with Zach with bow hunting. I'll get a message from him every now and then. He's talking about something, and the enthusiasm he has is just, it's great. I love it. It's such a good community to be a part of. And like you said, we're not versing each other. It's not competitive. We're helping our hunting industry, which is what we need. I think social media was so poisonous 5 years ago. Now it's, hey, let's not say that. Let's work together. Let's get a better community, not let's bag everyone out. And that's not going to help us. We're going to lose it if we keep doing that. So
I've been saying for a while is we need more hunters.
Yeah.
And we need more fishers, and we need more people doing it, because if you don't have people doing it who love it, they're not going to stand up.
No.
If anything's coming your way to stop it. And, we don't need Switzerland. We don't need people sitting on the fence that are, I don't care about hunting. I'm not for it, not against it, because they're never going to be people standing up. And it's been really interesting watching what's going on down in Victoria and seeing that, the tradies, I think the electricians went on strike for duck hunting. Man, awesome. That's the stuff we need because that's obviously a lot of electricians that are, that enjoy that pastime and they're using sort of what their profession and their trade to say, hey, enough's enough. Yeah. Like, you're not going to walk all over us. And I think that's a really good thing, and we need more of that. And, I love seeing what, Field and Game are doing and hearing about that. And I'm hoping that one day all those big corporations or organisations and that have a piece of the pie and are getting money, that they band together in some sort of council or committee and stop trying to fight each other for their piece of the action and their little bit of money, because that's the day when everybody sits there and goes, hunting, fishing, four driving, camping, bushwalking, they are all connected. And if we can tap into everybody that does one of those, the numbers, now you have the advantage.
Exactly.
As opposed to the other way round. And that's what speaks volumes. That's what we need because that's what politicians look for. They look for votes.
Exactly.
And that's just the way it is. That's their job. So we need to be doing everything we can to get more and more out there. And, hey, as I said, you're not competition. Mate, someone might love you and hate me and vice versa. And that's cool. That's what we want because if they're listening to one of us, that's a win. So, mate, I've had a great time. Really appreciate you coming on. And it's been great having a chat. And I know we'll be keeping in touch and talking more going forward.
I have to get you on mine, and we'll. I don't do any editing on mine anymore. So
I don't know how. Mate, I don't know how I'd go. I'd sound like an idiot if I didn't edit.
It's just called winging it, mate. It's just having a good time. And
hey, I like to learn, as I said, so willing to give anything a shot. So.
No, mate, thank you very much for having me, and I can't wait to watch you grow, and you're already on top 10 and number 1 I saw, so congratulations on that.
Cheers, mate. A big start for the new podcast. So I did not expect it at all, to be honest. I didn't think I'd see charts, and I just signed up to get the emails, and I actually thought it was a mistake. I opened it up and it had the 1 and a dash, and I was like, oh, it's not registering yet. And then went, oh, hold on. No. And then went on and went, holy crap. So I don't know why, but, thanks to the listeners for the support and giving it a listen and whatnot. But, I didn't think that was going to happen. So it was a nice, pleasant surprise.
No,
but, mate, look, it's just a journey. I love it. I love doing it. It's so much fun and getting to talk to people like yourself. Otherwise, we probably never would have spoken. So that's a win within itself. And, taking things away from chats has been great. So if you haven't already, get over, have a listen to Bailing, Scaling and Barbecue, and check out the new one, Wild Game on Open Flame. I'm excited to see where all these lead, mate. Congrats, well done, and keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
Thank you very much, mate. Have a good one.
All right, listeners, bye for now. If you have a topic, guest, question, or any gear that you want to hear about on the podcast, shoot us an email, australianhuntingandbeyond@gmail.com. Alternatively, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links are in the show notes. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a review and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.